Thank you for joining me on the journey. This is Completed Christianity. So, welcome back. Another episode of Being Complete. And today is fifth day, what they say. And we're going to kind of take a look today at Donald Trump and the recent events surrounding him, his felony convictions, and touch a little bit on the assassination attempt, the Trump hush money trial. In this, he's convicted of felony crimes, 34 felony crimes. And what this is it's a continued and deliberate and worked out concerted effort of an attack against our country and our country's top job, which our country's top job, it kind of personifies our country. And so this concerted effort to destroy the ideals, the morality, power of our nation that's founded on Protestant principles, which is a concerted effort of the Counter-Reformation. So, the Protestant Reformation, and that caused millions to bleed out of the Catholic Church. Thus, the Catholic Church started a Counter-Reformation. And so, this is an effort. It's behind the scenes. It's covert. You don't see it in your everyday life unless you're really attuned to it. And so this attack, it's been a decades-long attack. It starts even before Kennedy, but we're going to start with Kennedy. And so this attack, it was accelerated even when John F. Kennedy was installed or selected as president by Mayor Daley stuffing the ballot box in Chicago. There was much opposition to Kennedy as a candidate from the American people because he was openly Catholic. But much of those concerns were diffused by his claims that his faith would have no bearing on the way he governs. And the Counter-Reformation side surely saw such statements as not being genuine, but after they got him installed and he began to make good on such promises and began attacks on the FBI, CIA, and his non-committal to long-term plans. He wouldn't commit to these long-term plans that people brought to him, that they wanted him to work out. And it's probably likely because he had his own long-term plans that they couldn't know about. And so he wouldn't commit to these long-term plans, and particularly the plan that they wanted him to commit to was escalating the war in Vietnam. But instead of escalating, he ordered to pull out 1,000 troops. And he also had this attack on the Federal Reserve and began to make maneuvers to begin printing greenbacks. And so in all of that, the decision was made that he had to be eliminated. He had to be stopped. He was working an all-out onslaught on the establishment that the Counter-Reformation controls, runs, and set up. And so then Johnson, he took over for JFK when Kennedy was assassinated and was likely involved in the assassination setup. With Johnson in, the de-escalation was over, and Johnson escalated the war in Vietnam, which was actually a Catholic crusade against the Buddhists in Vietnam to convert them to Catholicism, to attempt to establish a Catholic superstate. So the Catholics, well, the Buddhists, when the war came, it destabilized the region, and the whole country there is destabilized, and predominantly most of the aid allowed in was Catholic charities, and the Buddhists had to become Catholic in order to receive the aid. And this is detailed in the BBC journalist Avril Manhattan's book, Vietnam, Why Did We Go? Nixon, he further damaged the country's highest office with the Watergate scandal by overseeing the break-in into the Democratic National Convention headquarters and wiretapping people without their knowledge. Today we call this the Patriot Act. But at the time, Nixon had to resign to avoid impeachment, all further weakening the nation and its highest office. So these are step-by-step little incremental attacks, and showing that this office is flawed. This office doesn't work. This country is flawed. This country doesn't work. It's an attack on what was once a Protestant country, no longer a Protestant country. Okay, but there's all these remnants of what Protestant people put in place, and it's an attack on that. Okay, and so Nixon, he had to resign to avoid the impeachment, and that further weakens the nation. Then Ford, he empowered the Soviets and other enemies and created a foreign policy debacle. And so this is just another niche in the belt that caused these foreign policy issues. And then Carter comes in and leads the nation to economic despair and confiscatory taxation, 70% taxation, further weakening the nation, demoralizing the public. And then Reagan, he further weakens the highest office by not even being a statesman. And now the American public has elected, or so they think they elected, a Hollywood actor to the top job. Reaganomics, however, pulled the nation out of the economic crisis, but this is just sleight of hand by our puppeteers. But in the process, Reagan begins to think that he's above the reach of the puppeteers due to his immense popularity with the public, and begins to defy our puppeteers. Thus, Reagan, given the JFK lesson, although lives, and either way, it's a win-win for the Counter-Reformation. And less than 3 years after his assassination, Reagan officially restores diplomatic relations with the Vatican, reversing a 177-year ban on relations with the Vatican in the U.S. politics. And so they got his attention. He started thinking he was the president. He started thinking he had his own power. They got his attention. So then George H.W. Bush, he runs on the read my lips, no new taxes, hits the office and raises taxes. And so and then George H.W. Bush, like some others here, in particular Johnson, he was highly against the Constitution, constitutional limits on the president. He was highly against that. Bill Clinton, he just kind of comes in, him and his staff just make a mockery of the whole presidential office in their administration. and and then you have the the stupidity of the Monica Lewinsky trial, and him saying, it depends on what the definition of is. Well, this is just spinning stuff to spin stuff. And then George W. Bush, he brings us the Patriot Act and oversees the 9/11 attacks. And it's just one by one, chip away at the power of the United States, that it became that power because of the Protestant ideals, and that the core of the American people still hold the stuff, through these years, and it's just chip away until we just come down the line here. And then Obama, he just, he never had a real birth certificate, and that's highly controversial. But he is likely didn't qualify. But once again, like these people, even more than these, I think also with Nixon and Ford, and George H.W. Bush and Clinton in particular, they had this disdain for constitutional limits. And so the constitutional limit on that you had to be a natural born citizen. Well, whether Obama was or not, they put him in here to have that doubt sown into the American public. And it's just like here in Revelation 6:2, this verse, people think this is future, but it's not. It's historical. A lot of Revelation has been fulfilled. If that's a new concept to you, then take a look at our playlist, Understanding Revelation, and also the Mark of the Beast. And here in this, he says, look, and I looked and I saw a white horse, and who sat on it, holding a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out overcoming and to overcome, or conquering and to conquer. And this happened in the first century, at the end of the first century, around 96 AD, or in 96 AD, which is the proposed writing of the book of Revelation. So it's practically this first seal. By the time his ink's even dry on the paper, this starts to happen. And that's what the book says, that it's about things that shortly come to pass. And so this right here, in 96 AD, the first Cretan emperor came to power. He was a non-Roman. He wasn't Roman. Okay, this is why we have this in place in our country, that you've got to be a natural born citizen, because a foreigner is not going to keep the ideals of your country. And so it says that a crown was given to him. He was given the crown. He was holding a bow. The Cretans were bowmen. Okay, and he was given a crown. He was given the crown of the empire when he wasn't supposed to have the crown of the empire. And this opened things up for basically anybody to be emperor. You didn't have to be Roman anymore, and it weakened the empire. This was the first judgment for the Romans coming against Yah's people. And so this right here it weakened the empire, because the rule didn't follow anymore. And that's what we have with Obama. Whether he was or he wasn't, the the idea was sown in there for at least half or most of the American people that maybe he wasn't a natural born citizen. And then Donald Trump comes in. He's not a statesman either, like Reagan. He's basically an actor, a reality TV star. He's part of the machine. He says the right things for conservatives. He's part of the machine. These Counter-Reformation schools, he went to Counter-Reformation schools. His wife went to Counter-Reformation schools. They sent their children to Counter-Reformation schools. That's the way it is. He's there to play a part, to play a role. And then with this attempted assassination, a lot of things about it just doesn't make sense. It's just not standard protocol. There's no way all of a sudden that they're this inept. This is all set up and staged to gin up people to vote for Donald Trump, to renew his faith, or renew faith in the electoral process, and then in that process, all of this, what it means for the future of America and for your future, is that they're going to continue to chip away at our country. And it's basically a downward spiral toward them gaining ultimate control. And like all of these presidents, they work for Rome. They follow Rome. And so right here in Revelation 18, and he cried with a mighty voice, saying, Babylon is fallen, has become a dwelling place of demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, and a haunt for every unclean and hated bird, because the nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her whoring, and the sovereigns of the earth have committed whoring with her. Okay, they're going to the beast, the whore, the beast system. They're going to her, to Rome. Okay, Rome that has descended from the ideals, descended from the Israelitish nation, from Judaism. Judaism is ultimately behind Rome. Rome controls it all. The origin is Judaism, from where Rome's ideals come from. Okay, and all of this Babylonian mixture and syncretism, it all started in Judaism from the Babylonian exile, and that's how they brought that down, and then it comes into the Roman ideal as well. Okay, so they commit whoring with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the power of her riotous living. Okay, let's get down here to 9. And the sovereigns of the earth who committed whoring and live riotously with her shall weep and mourn over her when they see the smoke of her burning, and stand at a distance for fear of her torture, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, Babel, the mighty city, because your judgment has come in 1 hour. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her, because no one buys their merchandise anymore. So merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, scarlet, citron wood, every object of ivory and precious wood, bronze, iron and marble, cinnamon, incense, fragrant oil, frankincense, wine, fine flour, wheat, cattle, and sheep, and horses, and carriage, and bodies, and lives of men, and the fruit that you're being longed for has gone from you, and all your riches and splendor are lost to you, and shall find no more, not at all. The merchants of these who became rich by her shall stand at a distance for fear of her torture, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, 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 the great city is dressed in fine linen, and purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour such riches was laid waste, and every shipmaster, every passenger, and sailors, and many as work in the sea stood at a distance, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What is like this great city? And so this great city, Rome, okay, and its idea, it's Rome, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Rome. All of these things, it's like, it descends all from Jerusalem, but it comes through and finds its power center in Rome. And so, through all of this, these sovereigns, they become rich. Sovereigns of the world. They become rich because they work for Rome. But then one day, someday, soon, hopefully, that it'll all be brought down. And it'll be brought down by nations that begin to hate the whore. That begin to hate Rome. Nations that were once a part of the old Roman Empire. They will rise up, the European nations, and they will bring her down because it says that they hate her. But all of this is made possible. All of this is made possible because, like I said about H.W. Bush, and it was Ford and Nixon in particular, they had this disdain for the rule of law, for the Constitution. They had this disdain for that. And that comes from the ideal that the law of the Father, that law, that it is diminished or done away with, or we don't do that anymore. However you want to term it. This is a Catholic doctrine that has its roots in Gnosticism, and I proved that in the series that I did on Simon Magus. If you don't understand what I'm saying, you don't believe it, take a look at that series. You owe it to yourself. Even if you can't agree, at least you know what you're talking about. At least you get all the information. But all of this, it's Rome's attack on a once Protestant nation to in the end, bring us back to the mother church. It's all about chipping away at the residuals of Protestantism and making people more Catholic. Psalm 89:34, my covenant I will not break, nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up, comment down below. Comments of opposition are welcome. Just don't say anything dumb like we're not under the law or under grace because you've been taught to use that verse outside of the bounds of its intended context. Subscribe now. Smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you get notifications of all future videos.